Hello, welcome back to BlenderSushi Live Noding. In this video, I'm going to dig a little bit on Blender Compositing, and we'll do something with a node grouping. So it's kind of basic. Basically, earlier today, I have a question here from my Twitter asking about diffusion reaction or reaction diffusion. This is a if you might have seen a pattern that looks like this, kind of like um, kind of maybe in the same family like the Voronoi kind of pattern. It's a pattern that you might find in nature that resembles something like a looks like a brain or worms. It it it's kind of still strange that this kind of pattern kind of give us kind of a strange feeling about it. And there are already some works using this pattern as the basis, and I will try to recreate that using Blender. Maybe not exactly like in 3D, or it's not. We're gonna do something that's really simple for now. So if you wanna have a look, you can Google Kouhei Nakama, and he did this work using the pattern. I think he got some really beautiful works here. You can watch it at Vimeo. And luckily, we also have this tutorial by Entagma.com. They have this step-by-step on how you can recreate that using Photoshop in 2D. That's exactly what we're gonna do actually. I've watched this video a couple of times and then just look at this ingredient, like a recipe. Basically, we just need to do a couple of Gaussian blur and then subtracting the image and then do it a couple of times. That's exactly the recipe. It's really simple for that one. I will attempt to do also maybe code a more challenging reaction diffusions based on Daniel Schiffman processing code. That's for later. If you want to try, there is this online interactive simulations that you can do, and this is kind of interactive, and you can just simply draw, and you're gonna get actually a tileable pattern for reaction diffusions, and this is can be something you can use inside Blender as displacement map. I found it to be really cool, and you definitely should give this a try. So this is definitely more advanced reaction diffusion. You can actually save this. Just click on this, and then you're gonna get the output. So don't worry about that. I'm gonna close it before it crashes. Okay, I'm gonna quit Firefox and jump into Blender. Alright, let's do it. Switch to compositing, switch to cycle render, turn on, and we are here in the node editor. We're using the middle one. This is a compositing. Turn on nodes, and that's what we got: render layers and composite. This is probably the first time I'm using the compositing node. Basic. I've almost never used this before, but for my live noding, but I will do it today. First of all, we're gonna create like the starting image. I'm just gonna use the image editor and draw something. So I'm gonna create a new image, maybe 1080 by 1080, and then the color should be white. Okay, so this is just a white canvas. If you start drawing using white canvas, you might not be able to see the brush. That's okay. There's actually a brush here hovering on top of the mouse. You need to switch to paint and then select maybe like black. You see the cursor there? See, You can't see it if it's white. I'll increase the strength because by default it's kind of blurry and then it's transparent. I don't want that. I want like a full maximum darkness of the brush, something like that, almost like you can see the pixel. That's okay. That's good for our thingy. Radius, that should be okay. With the reaction diffusions, you have like a starting point. You can make any kind of drawing. I'm gonna maybe draw the BlenderSushi logo. It's this kind of snail, kangaroo, something like that. Maybe put a little bit of sun and yeah, a couple of stuff there. Smiley face. That's BlenderSushi logo there. You can use your own drawing, but this is gonna be a starting point. Save as okay, BlenderSushi. Okay, save this image as well. Just snail start. Okay, this is gonna be black and white reaction diffusion pattern. Obviously, it would be nice to have this kind of procedural texture as 3D inside the nodes for the texture, just like the Voronoi or just like Cell, other pattern, Musgrave. Maybe one day Blender will have that. For now, we're gonna just play around with it inside compositing. If this is first time you look at a compositing, these render layers will have an input if you render something in the scene. This time we're not going to do 3D, so it's just like a compositing. We're gonna turn this image into kind of a reaction diffusion pattern. Okay, how do we do that? So I'm gonna delete this render layers. I'm gonna grab the image and then just use that image as input. And here we have this is for the final render, but normally we will use the viewer node, and then we're gonna pass this image. If we pass that image there and we switch to image editor, and then there will be the viewer node here, and this guy will have the output of the result of this whatever's plugged in into the viewer node will show up here. If it's not updating, just scrub on the timeline and you're gonna get it. Okay, that's a good start, and this is our image. We can leave it there for comparison. Okay, what we're gonna do is actually really simple, because I watched that movie. No, I watched that video tutorial about reaction diffusions by I can't remember, but I said it earlier. All we need to do is actually just using like a Gaussian blur. It's called blur in Blender Compositing, blur. And we're gonna blur the image. We need to give like this a little bit of value, maybe 10. And now we have blurry image there, slightly blurred. And we need another. Do we need the gamma to be on? Maybe turn on the gamma, doesn't matter. Using the same source image, we're gonna plug that in, and then in this guy we can blur it like 4 or 3 times more, and then we subtract it. And at first I was doing it like this using math. This is actually not quite correct. You need to use mix, because mix does it for RGB. You see the color. Add only works on a single value, floating value, while mix will work with RGB, so that's probably better. Although in this case black and white, it probably doesn't matter too much. You can test it using your own photo later, like a full color. Let's see if it's actually working. Maybe not gonna work. Mix, change this into subtract, and then let's have a look at the result. and there you go. That's the result I'm looking for. You might be able to switch around. Either one of these can give a better result. I don't know. Maybe I'll just leave it like actually it's the other way around. Maybe that's the one we need. Clamp it. Do we need to clamp it? Maybe don't need. Now all we need to do is to turn this white line into kind of like more contrasty. I use gamma. We don't seem to have exposure node in Blender Compositing, but there must be a way to do it in Blender. Gamma 10, and it's become totally dark. We want to go the other way around. Maybe gamma 0. As long as we get like a super contrasty image, and that's might be okay, but I'm afraid I'm doing it the other way around, or that's probably all right. Size 5, size 2. Kind of want. This is kind of the result I want. So maybe this should be 0.5. It's okay. We will see how it's gonna look. Okay. If you want, you can also use brightness contrast and increase the contrast. Maybe, but it's probably optional in this case. Okay, now all we need to do is kind of just do like a do this recipe, kind of like node setup multiple times, like and I don't think if we can do it using Blender Compositing, I don't think we can script it or iterate this thing multiple times, but we can group it. So if I group this guy and then Control G, now I'm inside the group node, and as you can see, everything is collapsed. Now we have this like input and output, and that's really nice. Here, as you know already, we are using the same source, so we can pipe that one into this guy, so we don't need 2 slots for that, and we can delete one. Okay, now in order to go back up to the scene level, we hit tab. Now this is all we got. But this has become a single node, and we can repeat it easily. So let me do that real quick. Do it 2 times and let Blender process it, and then you can see it's already, we have reaction diffusion happening. Do it 3 times. I don't quite like the edge, but I guess that's okay. Doesn't matter. It's kind of interesting. You can actually go back inside this node and then switch this thing around and then see if you're getting better result. Now you see the other one doesn't give much, so I switched to previous one. At this stage, we basically have the reaction diffusion happening. It's basically when 2 chemicals mix together, and then it's gonna have this kind of a wavy pattern repeated over and over again. That is exactly what's happening here, and this is just a simple, just a fun exercise you can do inside Blender Compositing. Let me try that using 9 times iterations. I tried it earlier and it doesn't seem to take too long time. And because it's just a simple process, I think it's pretty fast, so we can wait and have a look. So that's the result we're getting. If you feel like to do more, maybe do it like 18 times. This is gonna take slower and slower and slower, and but you know, it's kind of fun exercise. And see if you can turn this image into like a more colored version. What would be fun, maybe turn this into like a displacement map for Blender cycles. Yeah, maybe we can do that in a couple of minutes, if not. Hopefully this doesn't take too long time, and then I'm just gonna save the image and then use that as displacement. Yeah, okay, seems that we have a result already. See that these lines become like a bone. That's really cool. We can continue doing this, like iterate like 100 times and you get like really weird image. Save as image. Snail starts, snail, and snail result 1. Always have different version. Okay, so we have this. I'm gonna save this, open a new file totally, and gonna use this as displacement. Let's just use a grid. Use a grid and switch to Blender cycles, and just name it snail displays diffusion reaction. Yeah, this is just an extra bonus compositing thing. In Blender 2.78 you also have this now you have this super fine detail displacement that you can do in real time using cycles. Let's see if I can do that. I can't remember all the steps, but basically you just need to pipe something into the displacement. Let's try using, and it works with GPU. I think in this version, if you have good graphic card, turn on GPU and then see the displacement will be displayed and calculated real fast. Really cool stuff. So this is a diffuse displacement. Let's see if I plug something here. So we have all this texture now. I kind of fan of Musgrave these days, so just plug in Musgrave and let's have a look at the result. So my Musgrave is giving something. Musgrave, in a way, this Musgrave is kind of similar to diffusion reactions, although not quite. If we are using color ramp and increasing the contrast, you can kind of see kind of interesting pattern happening. That's a Musgrave texture. Let's see. I make this black. Kind of like islands, and I don't know, kind of weird pattern. I used to be. I'm still a big fan of Voronoi pattern also. I'm actually a big fan of all kind of pattern. It's kind of interesting how to think how you can recreate that in Blender or in computer. Dimension. So I don't want to play around with Musgrave too long. Let's see. Displacement. I think I need to turn on experimental. Supported. Let's see this is render setup and switch to experimental. And this guy now can be a true. Maybe use both, and now it's become like a true displacement. At the moment, this grid is super low resolutions, but we can increase it. Render, turn on adaptive, maybe. Now we have slightly higher resolution. If I'm not wrong, the render can have really fine details if we turn on maybe reduce the dicing. Oh well, I have to study that beforehand, but we want to load our image. snail result. So this is our image. We're gonna just load it for this guy. We need to do the UV. How to do the UV real fast? Hit tab U and unwrap. Now this guy have UV, and we just need to apply it into, maybe apply it into our surface as well beforehand. Image texture. If you want to see the Musgrave, how the Musgrave looks, just plug that in to the color. So the Musgrave, I thought the white should be like higher. Never mind. Maybe the color. So if we use our snail texture, see, we're getting, okay, there you go. That's the snail pattern. We just need a texture coordinate, and you know, we have UV, so we just plug in the UV, so it's all good. We can delete the Musgrave. Color ramp, I think color ramp is, we can use this to quickly give a different color. Maybe try red. So black and white image with gradations or grayscale image is always useful because you can easily remap it into different color. Yeah, there must be a better way to do this. Linear, B-spline. Doesn't matter. Now we're just gonna do the displacement. So there you go. Maybe I need to invert it. Nothing too fancy here. What really will be really cool is if we can do this reaction diffusion pattern as a 3D, and then not just like a 3D, not just like displays 3D, but also the inside. It's kind of like a brain kind of pattern. There is actually in SphereShock there is one example that kind of give you that kind of weird brain-like pattern. There's an example somewhere, but I can't remember. Yeah, for now this is probably it. I'll try to do a render, like proper render. View, align view, align active camera to view. Now let's see what we got. Render. Building BVH. It's might take a while. Updating mesh. This is just a grid. You might see the displacement. Reaction diffusion is interesting because you can provide input, your own input. Voronoi is kind of doing the same. If you're doing like a crack, yeah, I think we kind of see it happening. Actually, I have the setup. I have it too high with the rendering. Sampling, turn it to 1 sample. That's fine. Let's render and just wait. Maybe while it's rendering, maybe I'll open another Blender and have a look at the Voronoi. Maybe we can like kind of bring in our own image and then use Voronoi pattern and calculation finish. Are you sure? Okay. Oh yeah, it's very super low res. Let's see if okay, I rendered it. I cropped it accidentally. This is another Blender. Turn on lock camera to view. Let's frame this properly. Maybe render it at 3 sample for give it a little bit of light, better lighting, maybe. Okay, better lighting. Lamp. And should be yeah, diffuse is fine. Okay, just render. Here I'll frozen a little bit just now. Switch to cycles. Let's delete this. Create a plane. Create UV. Compositing. Use node. And this one I'll call it Voronoi. Voronoi. I'll load the snail result. So that's our puzzling image. Bring in image texture. Plug that in. Yeah, but there is the thing with a procedural texture and material creation is sometimes you modify the vector a lot. What I mean is, if we are using noise texture here, let's get the object plane, get the UV, and mix the UV. How do I do that? Let's see. Play vector math. Not sure if this is correct or not. Math. There's math and there is vector math. Might be doing it wrong. There's a Voronoi here. Voronoi looks like that. Cell or intensity, and you can also get like a circle kind of design, but yeah, I don't know if this is the right way to do it. XYZ vector value, expecting a value, Voronoi texture, so that's mixing the noise with Voronoi. Let's see, cell emit. That's what we get. Just adding detail. Probably not what we want. Vector mixing, vector math. see if we plug in color there, because color is RGB, and then what happens if we mix the two together? Yeah, add, subtract, average. Not what I really want, but I kind of want the, I actually want the texture to kind of modify the image. How do I do that? Maybe that's for the next one. Anyhow, should be getting our result. So that's our result. Yeah, so that's a reaction diffusion pattern recreated using Blender Compositing, and yeah, hopefully this is maybe if you're just beginning using Blender Compositing and Blender texture, procedural texture, should be like a fun start for you. Just give it a try. It's really cool and fun, and Blender 2.78 gives a lot of cool updates. Yeah, so thanks again for watching this video. If you want to give comments or questions, just leave it down below, and please subscribe to the channel so I can make this video more. And yeah, I'll see you